Hi, Dr. M. This is Group D9, consisted of Ashley Tran and
John Lang.
And our presentation is over the destruction of Florida's coral reefs. Coral reefs are formed when the planula larvae attach to the bottom of the ocean or the bottom of an island, and they manifest into bigger colonies through asexual reproduction, and they form the coral reefs. Coral reefs are the most biologically diverse ecosystem because so many different species depend on the coral reefs. That's why they're considered as the rainforest of the sea. They provide as both a home and a food source to the living creatures underwater, but they also are living creatures themselves. Coral reefs in the Florida Keys are currently getting destroyed increasingly over time, especially when more and more people are becoming complacent to the idea of the disappearance of coral reefs. Millions of direct and indirect jobs that are associated with the observation and study of coral reefs are at stake, and marine life that depend on the coral reefs for food or a home also struggle with survival. Our goal of the study is to research and determine the biggest issues that contribute to the destruction of the coral reefs. We intend to create a solution to sustain the reef's maintenance so that way we can prevent it from going to extinction. And we also want to provide conservational propositions to maintain the ecosystem around it, so therefore the creatures aren't going extinct along with the coral reefs. Humans inadvertently affect the reef by two prominent ways. One would be nutrient pollution, which is both liquid and solid waste traveling from households or businesses to the ocean and destroy the coral because it clouds the water, it makes the water quality a lot lower and making them more susceptible to diseases. Another way would be overfishing, which is causing bacterial opportunism and makes coral more vulnerable to harmful organisms like parrotfish that attack and peck at the outer layers of the coral. Coral are also extremely sensitive to the climate change. Greenhouse gas emissions contribute to the global warming that drastically changes the water climate. When the water climate increases to a certain extent, it causes coral disease or coral bleaching. The rate that the coral are actually dying is exceeding the growing rate, which decreases the reproduction of corals themselves. Coral is essential to the ocean's biodiversity, and therefore when the coral are slowly dissipating, the creatures that depend on it will as well. Therefore, humans are deprived of the food source that depend on the coral. Because the greenhouse gas emissions, along with the pollution from human interaction, contribute to the water quality and condition, we came up with a research question that due to the increase of temperature, what will happen if the biodiversity continues to decline?
So in order to prevent further damages to the reef, methodologies must be in place, and our first methodology is that samples must be pure and not contaminated. If samples are contaminated, the data will become corrupt and not consistent, and our study will become invalid. Samples must be taken in the same place for consistency. If they aren't taken in the same place, then they are also essentially corrupt because they... FUCK!
John! No!